So Jake Paul recently made a future boxing opponent hit list, and Michael Bisping's name was on that hit list. So Michael Bisping responded to being on the hit list by saying to Jake Paul, "Are you sure I should be on your hit list? I am your size, and remember, you don't fight people your size," which is 100% true, by the way. And then Jake Paul responded back to Michael Bisping by saying something along the lines of, "Ha ha ha ha, you have one eye. I'll fight you anytime. Let's set this fight up. I'll give you $1 million plus pay-per-view points. Let's get it going." And then Michael Bisping responded to Jake Paul saying something about, "Oh, you think you're tough, insulting someone for an injury they suffered in the octagon. You'll never understand that, and I'll happily fight you. I have two things you'll never have, and that is the respect of the fighting community and a world championship." And then that was basically a verbal shutdown from Michael Bisping. And then Michael Bisping went back and responded again in a YouTube video, basically saying on camera, "I'll gladly fight you, Jake Paul. This is me verbally agreeing to fight you. I'll step into the squared circle," which is like an old school term for a boxing ring. I don't know why they call it a squared circle. I know there's some historical reason as to why it's referred to as that. I'm not quite sure why. I think I heard Teddy Atlas ranting about it in one of his crazy tangents that he goes off on. I think at the time he was talking about Demetrius Johnson or something like that in a trade, and then he just went on a massive tangent about why it's called the squared circle. Either way, Michael Bisping has verbally agreed to fight Jake Paul in a boxing match, and Jake Paul has done the same. So now there's going to be some back and forth with their managers, and I will mention this. They've had this before. They had some back and forth before between their managers. Michael Bisping was actually made an offer, and he said the offer never came through, and there was some sort of miscommunication between the management, and it ended up being a different matchup for Jake Paul and stuff like that. But yeah, this is a very possible matchup next for Jake Paul, because right now, Jake Paul doesn't really have an opponent. I mean, the Tommy Fury fight is there. If he does win his fight on the undercard of Fury versus White, which is coming up soon, by the way. I know not many people know about undercards of boxing because typically they're all complete garbage, but Tommy Fury is on the undercard of Tyson Fury's next fight, which I believe is at the end of this month, in a couple of weeks' time. So, if Tommy Fury wins that one in impressive fashion, maybe then you would do Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul. However, I could see Jake Paul looking for the Michael Bisping matchup because it's a big matchup. They've already verbally agreed to it. And Bisping would take that fight. He just mentioned so. I don't want him to. He'll get flatline KO'd because he's terrible at boxing. And he hasn't fought for many years. And he's had so many surgeries to replace parts of his body. And he has one eye. Stop accepting fights against Jake Paul, retired or on their way out MMA fighters. You're embarrassing our sport. Please don't. Please. Please, Michael Bisping. Don't. I know the money's there, and I know you could get $1 million plus pay-per-view points, and that would be an extra good retirement for you. Please don't. You're going to embarrass us again. And you're going to overlook him. And he's going to beat you. Because you're terrible at boxing. You're an MMA fighter. You don't learn how to box. You learn how to throw hands. As an MMA fighter. In an MMA fight. You don't learn how to box. In a ring. As a boxer. We've just seen this. With Tyron Woodley twice. And he lost. Jake Paul's improving. Do not ruin the sport's credibility again. And I'm seeing comments like, and they don't know what I think I've seen comments in some of these videos about the potential fight being made by the same person leaving one comment that says, "Ha, Jake Paul calling out old retired fighters with one eye. What a coward." And then in another comment on the same post saying something like, "Yeah, Bisping would destroy this absolute clown. Go Bisping, we're all supporting you." Like, which one is it? Like, would Michael Bisping beat him? Because if you truly believe that Michael Bisping beats Jake Paul in a boxing match, surely Jake Paul deserves some kind of respect for you for calling him out. Or from you for calling him out. But I think people are just lying to themselves on what they believe in this. Bisping can't box. He's not fast. He's not really that powerful either. And he has no boxing experience outside of throwing hands in a cage. That's not boxing, it's throwing hands. You do it completely differently than you would do in a boxing ring. Tyron Woodley had to adjust his entire style just to make it somewhat work in a boxing ring, and even then he left his hands down enough to get flatline KO'd by Jake Paul. Please stop. Please don't take this fight, Michael Bisping. Your YouTube videos get lots of views. You're a commentator for the UFC. But I'm sure $1 million is a lot still in dollars. Like, it's a lot of money to have. Don't take it, man. Just do your YouTube. Get your money. Do your commentary job. Get your money. Do whatever else you're doing on the side with the Believe You Me podcast and some acting stuff that you're doing as well, and all the brands that you're pushing and the sponsors that you have. Like, don't embarrass our sport anymore. No more. People give shit to Conor McGregor being all up in his ego. He's doing the right thing by basically ignoring Jake Paul. I think he said like a couple of words in relation to Jake Paul. I think recently he mentioned something about, never say never and all that kind of stuff. But he's not openly, directly engaging with Jake Paul. He wants to fight the best fighters in the world. I know he's still an active fighter and not a retired one, so it's a different situation. But still, Jake Paul would beat Michael Bisping. He just would. Because Bisping has zero boxing experience. He's not in shape. Even in his final few fights in the UFC like he had with GSP, look at the weigh-in for him versus GSP. He is not capable of getting in good shape anymore. He's losing testosterone by the hour. Please. He's also majorly against roids. And Jake Paul, I believe, would be open for roids. So it'd be like a no roid, restricted matchup. Jake Paul probably would be on roids for the matchup. And even if Bisping was allowed to take them, I doubt he would. So there's a massive disadvantage for him. He has one eye. Okay, he's had countless injuries. He's slow. He doesn't have much power. He can't box. None of these MMA fighters can box, outside of maybe a push, some bantamweights, and some featherweights. But even then, they will get humiliated by boxers of their level. Stop taking these matchups. Jake Paul will KO Michael Bisping. He's blind on one entire side of his body. If you don't think Jake Paul will realize how to set up a left shot KO on Michael Bisping, with the coaches that he has, world-class coaches, you're out of your mind. Jake Paul has been making improvements in boxing, mainly in terms of the experience that he's had. I think his fight against, his first fight that he had against Woodley might have been the first fight that he did in front of a crowd. Maybe it was the second fight that he had with Woodley where he did his first fight in front of a crowd, in front of like a sold-out arena in Cleveland, Ohio, where he grew up and stuff like that. So I understand maybe the improvements aren't being seen in terms of his technical ability, but I truly believe the main improvements that he's been trying to overcome in these current few matchups that he's had have been experience problems. He hasn't fought in front of a crowd yet. Now he's fought in front of a crowd. He hasn't got too much experience in terms of overall fight time. Now he does. He's only KO'd guys. He hasn't gone to a decision yet. He goes to a decision against Woodley and wins. We're now going to see Jake Paul make tremendous technical advances in his career of boxing. First of all, you get over just being in the ring, okay? Your first few combat sports fights of any combat sport, you're not going to show technical advancements within your first few matchups. You're just going to show comfortability improving. You're going to be more comfortable, more composed, less jittery. And once you get past that stage and then all of a sudden you have experience fighting in front of a sold-out arena that all want you to lose, then you start making the massive improvements in terms of your technique. And that's what we're going to see now in Jake Paul's career. And he's bought himself more time. I think it's been about 6 months since he fought Tyron Woodley. Maybe it's been about 4 or 5, sorry. But by the time he fights Michael Bisping, it will have been at least 6 months since he fought Tyron Woodley. And he's been in the gym training as a boxer to get better. Because he's not done yet. I know he mentions that he's retired after every single fight to try and build it up and say, I'm going to retire after this one. Make sure you buy it because it's the last one you might ever see. It's what fighters do. Tyson Fury's claiming he's going to retire after the Dillian White matchup, and that's not going to happen. We all know that's not going to happen. He's just doing it because Dillian White's not promoting the fight too well. The fight probably won't do amazingly well in terms of pay-per-view sales, even though Tyson Fury's name is involved. So he's saying, hey guys, this is my last one. Better buy a Tyson Fury pay-per-view while you still can, and then he'll continue to fight and try and unify the belts if he does beat Dillian Whyte at the end of this month. Either way, Jake Paul will beat Michael Bisping. Bisping will have a massive crash course in trying to adjust his style to be good at boxing, and he won't be good. I know he is Jake Paul's size, and that might be an advantage, and a bigger advantage than some of the other opponents have had, but I genuinely think he'll just rush in, try and put volume on Jake, and just get flatline KO'd. Just get flatline KO'd, man. It's a completely different sport. We are being proven of that time and time again. Please don't fight him. Put your ego aside. Put your YouTube views that you want aside. And just don't talk to him. Stop talking to him. Puts you on a hit list. Ignore it. You're a grown man with a wife and kids. You have a career. You have a YouTube channel that's booming right now. I don't know how, but you get crazy amounts of views on YouTube. You probably make a solid amount of money. You do live streams and you ignore half the super chats that are like $20, $20. I wish I could just ignore those super chats. I'm like, oh, $2. Thanks so much, man. Like, and then this guy's just like, oh, did I skip $100 worth of donations? Oh, my bad. I'll catch up with the next ones. You know what I mean? Like, Michael Bisping, you're making good money. You've set yourself up for life. Don't tarnish our sport anymore. The main event this weekend is Lemos versus Andrade. The co-main event a couple of days ago was Calbahalo versus Omar Gadziev making their debuts. This sport's getting shit. Don't ruin it even more. Please. Don't ruin this sport even more. I beg of you. We're becoming a laughingstock of combat sports. Stop! Let him fight Tommy Fury. If Tommy Fury wins this fight against... I think it's my bin man that he's fighting this next matchup, actually, yeah. I was just thinking, my bins haven't been replaced recently. And I was like, oh, Jake Paul's fighting him. He's getting ready for a fight. So I was like, I'll leave it, you know. I can, you know, it's an excuse he can have. You know what I mean? I won't get onto my bin man too much. Like, you didn't empty my bins last week. I was like, it's all right. You know, he's training for a big matchup against Tommy Fury. So either way, don't fight Jake Paul. You'll lose. You're garbage at boxing. Every MMA fighter is. People act like Usman's good at boxing because he figured out how to use a jab with a massive reach advantage in the middle of a championship reign. Okay, let me put that into fucking good terms for you. Kamaru Usman is the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world in MMA. He figured out how to use a jab in the middle of his championship reign. Ignore Jake Paul. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip, I'll see you later. Plus, I'm not toodle pipping yet. Jake Paul just beat him. He'll just make the rounds shorter. He has all the control. Like, listen, I understand it will sell good. Michael Bisping will sell the hell out of it. I know people might not be too interested at first, but Michael Bisping will make a bunch of videos. They'll get hundreds of thousands of views on his YouTube channel. He'll, like, really help promote this fight in terms of, like, a similar demographic and, what's it called? A similar audience that would watch Jake Paul, the YouTube audience. You know what I mean? Because he's a former YouTuber. So Michael Bisping has his YouTube audience. This would be great for him. He could post videos about his training camp, post videos doing interviews about how he feels leading up to the fight, and get hundreds of thousands of views. They'll do a press conference. Michael Bisping is great at press conferences. He'll humiliate Jake Paul at a press conference. Humiliate him. Millions and millions of views. Oh my God, I can't wait for this one now, everyone will say. Not too interested in a Tyron Woodley matchup. Then the press conference happens, and everyone's like, okay, now we're invested. That happened in the first Tyron Woodley matchup. People wouldn't be interested in a Dylan Dennis matchup with Jake Paul. Then a press conference would happen, the memes would flow, and people would be interested by it. I understand this would be good business, and good for Michael Bisping. Just ignore him. You're not good. He controls everything. He'll make it 6 rounds if he wants to. He'll make it 4 rounds if he wants to as well. Bigger gloves. 4 rounds. Oh, we're doing it in 6 weeks. If you don't accept, you're a coward. 6 weeks. All right, yeah, I'll get ready for a fight in 6 weeks. Yeah, baby boy. Like, he's just going to lose. 100% he's going to lose. It's all rigged in Jake Paul's favor. He'll make it that way. Don't take the fight. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Yeah, see you later. And I'm sick of the people saying stuff like, oh, Bisping destroys this coward. Oh, yeah, Jake Paul calling out an old man. Like, make your mind up. Does Bisping destroy him? Or does Jake Paul deserve no credit for calling him out because he's an old man with one eye? And you're like setting up an insurance policy to support Bisping, but then have all the excuses lined up for when he loses. You know he'll lose. Everyone knows he'll lose. It'd be interesting. There'd be conversations to be had. He wouldn't be a big underdog, but he's going to lose. Jake Paul's about to make technical strides that we can see. He's already made those technical strides in the gym, but he's going to make those technical strides that we can see on match day, when he actually gets in the ring under the bright lights. Everything else has been experience up until this point. Never fought this many rounds. Never went to a decision. Tick, tick. Never done this. Tick, tick. Never done a fight in front of a big sold-out arena. Tick. He's comfortable doing all of it now, and now he's going to start showing the technical improvements. There's no experience that he needs to gain. Like, he's never going to be in a situation from now on in his boxing career where he's like, oh, he's never done this before. He's never done that before. Eventually, obviously, it will be said that he hasn't fought a real boxer yet. But until that point, it's not going to be like, oh, but has he sold out in front of 84,000 when it was like 82 or whatever? It's not going to be that much. It's not fucking Wembley. But either way, you know what I'm saying? He's now going to make the technical improvements and start showing them off. And he'll flatline KO Bisping. Toodle pip, I'll see you later. Goodbye. Click that button up there. Yeah.